وتوحيدا وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له إقرارا به وتوحيدا وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أرسله الله تعالى بشيرا ونذيرا وداعيا بإذنه إلى صراطه المستقيم. أما بعد, Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Now on Al-Khatib al-Baghdadi rahimahullah, he says, reading from the summarized version, speaking on some of the basic do's and don'ts and some of the basic etiquettes of sitting in the majlis of hadith, the majlis of the sama', sitting with the muhaddith and your contemporaries, your classmates in the circle of hadith. He says, كراهة القعود في موضع من قام وهو يريد العودة إلى المجلس. If there's someone gets up and they want to come back, you shouldn't take their seat. You shouldn't take their seat as long as they have the intention of coming back. As long as they have their intention of coming back. Now, I know many of you want to say some of these things are basic etiquettes, basic common sense, basic Islamic principles. But there is no such thing as basic. And there's no such thing as that which is expected or pre-assumed when you're in the majlis. Presume the unpredictable. When you're overseas, you'll see all types of things. You'll see shocking things. Your mouth will be open. How can the students of knowledge do something like this? Or say this, or act like this, or behave like this in the masjid, or to get books, or to meet a sheikh, or to meet a scholar, or to go to class, or to go see the results of the exams? You'll be shocked. So the people constantly need to be reminded, they need to be taught, they need to be enlightened, and the student of hadith is in a constant need of refinement. Constant refinement, a process of refinement, over and over and over and over again, until his akhlaq, his character, his adab are polished, honed, sharpened, polished. Everybody understand this? So this is something which may seem simple and basic to you. It may not be so simple and basic to the next man. Or it is, but he may forget. Or he may think because his ilm is different now. I can take someone's seat because he got up. I want to be closer to the sheikh. I want to hear the sheikh. I want to get the ijazah. I want to get the hadith. I want to have hirs ala al-ilm. So he says that this is something which should not be done. وبسنده عن أبي هريرة رضي الله تعالى عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إذا قام أحدكم من مجلسه ثم رجع إليه فأحق به. Sheikh Bakr mentions that Al-Khatib gave his isnad, meaning that in the original book, the asl, ليس المهذب والمختصر المنتقى إنه ساق هذا الحديث بإسناده بأسانيده. Al-Khatib was in the 5th century, so he's going all the way back to the Prophet ﷺ's time. After the hadith was already collected by Tirmidhi, by Malik, by such and such. So Al-Khatib, his books are musnada. Kutubuhu musnada. Marwiya bil asanid, bil turuq. So Al-Khatib al-Baghdadi rahimahullah, he quotes with his sanad that goes back to Abu Huraira radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, that the Prophet ﷺ says when someone stands up, excuse me, someone gets up from his seat with the intention he wishes to come back, فَهُ أَحَقُّ بِهِ, then it's his seat. He deserves it. That's my seat. I'm coming back. And obviously, if you place down a book, if you place down your jacket or a bag or something like that, then that's even better. That's even better. And that's a problem in itself with regards to students taking their places, putting their places, and then going and making salat, going on the front row, and coming all the way back to the majlis. We saw this all the time in Sheikh Abdul Muhsin al-Abbad's majlis. Khayran, inshallah ta'ala, moving forward. He then says, تعظيم المحدث وتبجيله لعموم حديث ليس منا من لم يوقر كبيرنا ويرحم صغيرنا رواه بسنده وأخرجه الترمذي وغيره. وإذا خاطب الطالب المحدث عظمه في خطابه بنسبته إياه إلى العلم مثل أن يقول له أيها العالم أو أيها الحافظ ونحو ذلك. He says, going back to the point that we already laid down, تعظيم المحدث وتبجيله. It's to show the scholar of hadith the most respect that one can possibly show. Give him the utmost level of respect and regard in one's actions, knocking on the door, entering his home, entering the majlis, and also speaking to him, when you talk to him. And this is all based off of the generality of the Prophet ﷺ statement. He says that those who don't show respect to our kabir and have mercy upon our saghir, then they're not from us. And the word kabir, as we've explained in al-awaiq, has two meanings. The first meaning could mean age, and the second meaning could mean kabir al-qadr, someone with high status. There could be a young person who has high status, and there could be an old person who has low status. It could be a young person who's wise, and it could be an old fool who never ever learned. He has gray hair and he's still a fool. As the Prophet ﷺ said about the people that Allah won't speak to on the Day of Judgment, He won't look towards them, they won't be purified of their sins, and they have a painful punishment. And from them He mentions, He says, Ushaymet Zanin. Ushaymet Zanin is an aged fornicator, an aged adulterer, someone who's old and he still hasn't learned the basic lesson not to make zina. He's still lustful uncontrollably. Everybody understand this? A young man who makes zina is still blameworthy, and he still has the hudud can be put on him, etc. He's still blameworthy in the Sharia. But he's young, he's impulsive, his desires are running wild. His desires are running wild, high sex drive, hypersexual, foolish. He doesn't have no insight, he doesn't think about tomorrow. But someone who's older, who has gray hair, is supposed to be a bit different now. He's supposed to have more control over his desires, and he's supposed to have children, have a family. I can't be a womanizer anymore, because I have a daughter, I have a granddaughter. So someone could be old and continue to be foolish. And someone could be young and could be what? Blessed to be what? To be wise. So he says, مَنْ لَمْ يُوَقِّرْ كَبِيرًا. He says, لَيْسَ مِنَّا. Those who don't respect our kabir, meaning age and also meaning qadr. And those who don't have mercy upon our saghir, meaning age. And one could also say that hadith also applies to saghir al-qadr. Have mercy upon the foolish people. Have mercy upon the people that are unwise. Have mercy upon the people, خُذِ الْعَفْوَ. Allah says what? وَعَرِضْ عَنِ الْجَاهِلِينَ. خَيْرًا inshallah. So therefore, as we've explained when we did the 40 hadith on seeking knowledge, is that the asl of these adab are the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. And the basic etiquettes are not some fancy and some type of exotic blend of statements and athar. It's nothing more than the manifestation of the sunnah. And the madhab of the salaf, ahlul hadith, is nothing more than the organic sunnah. That's all it is. There is nothing extra. There is no, the fahm al-salaf is different. The fahm al-salaf is the Quran and sunnah. And it's pure and organic, original state, without ilm al-kalam and falsafa and this and so on and so forth. So many people, they think it's something extra. Back in the day, there was no such thing as GMO, USDA, organic. There was none of that. It was just meat. It was just vegetables. There was no GMO 100, 200, 300 years ago. Everybody understand this? There was no such thing as, I want the organic apricots. It was just apricots. Everybody understand this or not? And then when the people start putting things inside of the fruit, inside of the vegetables, inside of the cows, then they made a what? Separation. This is organic, this is GMO. Everybody understand this? But the asl, the madhab al-salaf is nothing more than what? Kitab and Sunnah, in its pure organic state. The way of Ahlul Hadith is nothing more than what? Quran and Sunnah in its pure organic state. But it's now in light of the way of the people of falsafa, the way of the people of i'tizal, of this madhab and this schism and this group. Then they have their own way of understanding and looking at, and this is the madhab al-salaf. This is how we understand the Quran and Sunnah in its pure organic way. Everybody clear on this or not? Many shabab, they become lost, thinking that it's something different, thinking that the way of Ahlul Hadith is something different. The adab of a student of Hadith is nothing more than adhering to the Quran and Sunnah. Everybody clear on this or not? So this is what this is based off of. The etiquette of respecting the muhaddith is not based off of Sufyan Thawri. It's not based off of Imam Ahmed. It's not based off of Sufyan ibn Uyayna. It's based off of Muhammad's words. And then from there, Sufyan al-Thawri's statement is branched off from this hadith. Imam Ahmed's statement extracted from this hadith. He categorized it. He summarized it. He made a living example of it later on. Everybody understand this? But it goes back to who? The words of the Prophet ﷺ. I cannot explain in words how important this is. The way of Ahlul Hadith is the way of Islam. Everybody clear this or not? He then says, and whenever he speaks to the muhaddith, then he should respect him in his khitab, his address. And he should always attribute him to knowledge when he calls him. He says, Ya ayyuhal alim. Excuse me. Oh, ayyuhal hafiz. Terms that are terms of endearment, in terms of respect. Khairan, inshallah. At-tasi'u adabu as-sama'. أول ما يلزم الطالب عند السماع أن يصمت ويصغي إلى استماع ما يرويه المحدث وذكره بسنده عن الضحاك بن مزاحم أنه قال أول باب من العلم الصمت والثاني استماعه والثالث العمل به والرابع نشره وتعليمه وإن عرض لطالب أمر احتاج أن يذكره في مجلس الحديث وجب عليه أن يخفض صوته لئلا يفسد السماع عليه أو على غيره. Now he talks about the etiquettes of listening, the etiquettes of hearing the actual hadith. And what you put in your iPad, you put in your book, you say, Sami'tu. Sami'tu, I heard Sheikh Hisham say this and say that. Haddathana, kada wa kada. Everybody understand this? You're in the majlis, I'm reading to you my hadith. I'm making imla. Or from my hifz. You're making tahammul. You're taking the narration from me to write it down in your notes or to memorize it, and then you pass it on to your students and to your pupils. That is the concept of the isnad. That's the concept of the what? Of the isnad. Everybody understand this? That's the concept of the isnad. So al-Bukhari says, Haddathana Sadaqa ibn al-Fadl. Sadaqa ibn al-Fadl is the teacher of Imam al-Bukhari. And at the time, Imam al-Bukhari was sitting with other students. But Bukhari, he reported what Sadaqa ibn al-Fadl said in his book. He says, Haddathana. Sadaqa ibn al-Fadl told us. Everybody understand this? He told us. So he was listening to him. He was listening to Sadaqa ibn al-Fadl. Everybody clear this or not? So what are the etiquettes of a sama' now? What should you or shouldn't you do? He says the very first thing that the talib, the disciple, has to do when he wishes to listen is to keep silent. So we automatically understand talking is a no-no. A no-no. Now this is a basic principle as well in school. Don't talk. Teacher says, why are you talking? Don't be a class clown. Be quiet. But you'll be shocked. Many Muslims, they violate this. Only Allah knows how many conferences I've been to in which they send up a note and it says, can you please tell the sisters to stop talking? I cannot hear the class. The sister, she complains. All the sisters on the sister side talking about makeup and they're talking about fashion. I can't hear the lecture. You'll be shocked. How many classes you go to and brothers are talking or brothers are giggling or he's tapping someone or making a joke. You will be shocked. So that's the very first etiquette of hearing the hadith is that you have to remain silent. You cannot talk in the class. He says not only to listen, he says, وَيُصْغِي. It's to listen attentively to that which the narrator is or the muhaddith is passing down. Because if you don't pay attention and listen attentively, you may make an error. You may make a mistake, a khata, a ghalat. And it may be something very simple and it becomes mudraj. It becomes mudraj. It's now the muhaddith said something and the mustamli said something else. You know what a mustamli is? The mustamli, it was back in the day. This is a mustamli here, the microphone. It's a modern day, mustamli. Back in the day, there wasn't no microphones. So if this scholar had 500 students, 1,000 students, obviously he couldn't reach all of them with his bare natural voice. So every 200 students or 300 students, there would be a man standing up that would listen to him and then convey it to the next patch of students. He would convey it to the next what? Patch of students. Everybody understand this? That's a mustamli. So there were some scholars of hadith that had several mustamlun, several of them. It was so many students there. So you may not be paying attention. You may talk, you may make a joke or say something, and then next thing you know, you take what the mustamli said as the hadith. Man hasunat salatuhu bil-layli, hasuna wajhuhu bin-nahar. When the man, he was reporting the hadith, and he saw a righteous man passing by. He gave him the salutations, and he saw that the man looked very handsome and beautiful, and he says, he who makes a lot of prayer at night will be handsome in the daytime. And the narrator, he took that report as a khata and attributed it to the Prophet ﷺ. Everybody clear on this or not? Everybody understand what this means? So the importance of paying a great deal of attention and listening sharply, because you never know when you need detail. He then says, rahimahullah, he mentions his sanad. Sheikh Bakr says that a khatib gives his chain of narration that goes back to Ad-Dahak ibn Muzahim. Who was Dahak ibn Muzahim? Who's Dahak? Anybody know who this was? Student of somebody, of Ibn Abbas. His student, he learned from him, he met him. So how was he a student of Ibn Abbas? Student of Mujahid. Who was Dahak ibn Muzahim? Where do you find his name at? In abundance. Ibn Kathir. Ahsan. Very good. So he was a student of who? Ibn Abbas? Did he hear Ibn Abbas? Did he listen? Did he actually hear the tafsir of Ibn Abbas? Research it, inshallah. Tayyib. Ad-Dahak, rahimahullah ta'ala, for sure he's from the Tabi'een. He said, the very first thing, the very first step in knowledge is silence. He doesn't say listening, but he says what? Silence. Your parents ever tell you that back in the day? Son, you can't talk and listen what? At the same time. They tell you this when you're young. You can't talk and listen at the same time. One of the two you got to pick. He says, so the very first step in ilm is silence. Then it's listening. Then it's acting upon it. Then it is teaching it and spreading that knowledge. He says, anything in which you need to mention in the majlis, it's a necessity, then you have to do it in a low voice. So that way you can still hear it briefly and not to ruin anyone else's listening. A new qari, a new volunteer. What hand do we raise in the class? Fadda. We always raise the what hand? Right hand in the majlis of hadith. This is old now, right? Fadda. وَإِن لَمْ يَبْلُغْهُ أن يرفع لما طيب. He says here, if the person can't hear, he's too far, then he should kindly and politely ask him to raise his voice. Not violently, not rudely, not harshly. And he said something that you should avoid is asking the sheikh to repeat himself, even though you already understood it. Can you say that again, even though you clearly heard it? He says because that will annoy and suck the energy from the teacher. It's jar, wear him out. وينبغي He says that the student of hadith, the disciple sitting with the hadith scholar, is like a child sitting with a school teacher. A child sitting with a school teacher. This is also from the manifestations of what? Khatib. This kalam is a manifestation of what? He said that the person, he says, sit like a child with a what? A school teacher. Empty the cup. Empty the what? Empty the cup. Get rid of your pre-assumptions. Get rid of the knowledge and the information that you think that you have, It's to do what? Empty the cup. How does a child sit with a school teacher? Teach me, instruct me. Everybody understand this? So it's very important, He then says, rahimahullah ta'ala, وَيَجِبُ أَن يُقْبِلَ عَلَى الْمُحَدِّثِ بِوَجْهِهِ وَلَا يَلْتَفِتَ عَنْهُ وَلَا يُسَارَ أَحَدًا فِي مَجْلِسِهِ وَلَا يَحْكِي عَنْ غَيْرِهِ خِلَافَ رِوَايَتِهِ. He says, when you sit, face the hadith scholar and don't turn away from him. Nor should you whisper to anybody, nor to talk about anything except for the riwayah. وَلْيَحْذَرْ أَنْ يَعْتَرِضَ عَلَى حَدِيثِ رَسُولِ اللَّهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وسلم عِنْدَ سَمَاعِهِ مِنَ الْمُحَدِّثِ بِرَأْيِهِ فَإِنَّ ذَلِكَ مَحْظُورٌ عَلَيْهِ. When you hear the hadith, don't give your opinion and what you think and what you feel, which goes against it. This doesn't mean if I ask you a question in the class, what does this hadith mean, that you say, I don't know. No, this is training. This is tadreem. This is talim. I think that the hadith means that you have to make wudu if you go to sleep like this. But we're talking about you to say, no, that doesn't make any sense. This hadith is not true. That's what we're talking about. There's a difference, huh? Everybody understand this? There's a huge difference. The Prophet ﷺ, he says, أَتَدْرُونَ مَنِ الْمُفْلِسِ. He says, do you know who the muflis is? He says, do you know who the what? Who the muflis is. And the Sahaba, they didn't say Allah and His Messenger know best. Al-muflisu fina man la dirham lahu wa la mata'. They answered logically. He says, the bankrupt person to us is one who has no money. And he says, lakin al-muflisa minhum. He says, that's only one part of a bigger type of muflis. Everybody understand this? So if you're being asked a question, if you respond and say what you think and feel based off of ilm in a classroom setting, then that's different. طيب خير إن شاء الله. Moving forward, وكذلك يجب أن لا يعترض عليه بعموم القرآن لجواز أن يكون ذلك الحديث مما خص به كتاب الله عز وجل. As they say, bite down on this one. This is a tough pill for many people to swallow. Al-Khatib rahimahullah ta'ala says that one should not reject the hadith that he hears based off of the generality of the Quran. The generality of the Quran. Because it's possible for this hadith to be one of the things which has specified that general verse in the Quran. Everybody understand this? Al-Khatib al-Baghdadi is saying this. Not Shaykh Hussain ibn Taymiyyah, not Ibn Abdul Wahhab, not Bin Baz, Uthaymeen, Albani. This is Al-Khatib, who died in the 5th century, who came from a different country. He had a different madhab, a different background. And when you hear the hadith, don't give your opinion and your view and rejecting it or not accepting it. He says this hadith may be something which has specified the generality of the Quran. Everybody understand this? He then says, وَإِذَا رَوَى الْمُحَدِّثُ خَبَرًا قَدْ تَقَدَّمَتْ مَعْرِفَتُهُ فَيَنْبَغِي لَهُ أَنْ لَا يُدَاخِلَهُ فِي رِوَايَتِهِ لِيُرِيَ أَنَّهُ يَعْرِفُ ذَلِكَ الْحَدِيثِ فإن من فعل مثل ذلك أو فعل مثل هذا كان منسوبا إلى سوء الأدب. Once again, another concept of the what? Of the cup now. He says, excuse me, that when a muhaddith narrates a hadith and you previously heard the hadith, you knew the hadith, then you are not to cut him off or to say, I know that, or as many brothers, they say sahih. They say sahih. They say right, yes. He says this is to be avoided. He says for someone to show the teacher that he knows this hadith. We know that, Sheikh. I know that. Yeah, all right, I got that. He says, don't do this. He says, anyone who does this, he says this is disrespectful. And it's a means of what? Of lack of respect. Everybody understand this? Let alone the fact that your teacher may give you more. If it's me, I'm going to be quiet. What you know, Ishan, I want you to give me every single ounce of ilm that you have. So I'm going to sit in front of you like I don't know anything. Because it may be something that I did learn, but he's going to explain it in a what? A different way. A different spice, a different variation, a different sharh, a different athar, a deeper level. Everybody understand this? So it only makes sense for you to empty a cup and just remain silent. Everybody understand this? طيب, moving forward. فضل. Al-Ashir. من لا يروي
شيئا إلا بعد أن يسأل ويحكى مثل هذا عن إبراهيم النخعي وعبد الله بن طاووس ومنهم من يتمنع وإن سئل اعتمادا على قول شعبة بن الحجاج وكان بعض السلف من التحديث إذا كان السامع ليس من أهل العلم وكان غير واحد من المتقدمين يقتصر على رواية الشيء اليسير ولا يتوسع في التحديث.
طيب, now he goes on speaking on what are the etiquettes of asking the muhaddith, meaning for a hadith. You say to the sheikh, Ya sheikh, Hafidhukum Allah, so on and so forth. Hadithni, please give me narrations. I want to be your student. I want to be your pupil. I want to be your disciple. Give me the isnad. Give me the hadiths that you have. What are the etiquettes of asking teachers for hadiths? He says here, listen once more, and there's another major hadith disciple cliche and principle, and that is learning the form and seeking the what? Formless. He says, the madhahib al-muhaddithin fi riwayah takhtalif. They're different. They vary. There is no one rule. There is no one rule. Some teachers are like this, and other teachers are like that. Some teachers are in the middle, some are harsh, some are soft, some are easygoing, some are burdensome, some wish to punish the student, some are friendly and welcoming to the student. So there is no one rule. There's no one set law. It's going to depend and vary on the actual teacher. Everybody clear this or not? Everybody understand this? So obviously, hopefully, you can see many of these different principles, no matter how we word them or how they're formed, we're not just making them up. This is the kalam of the ulama of the past. Everybody understand this? So he says, so they takhtalis. From them, he says, are those who give tahdith without even being asked. Hey, listen, I'm going to give you a faida. You ready? Just like that. I'm going to teach you something. Huh? I'm going to what? Come to the center and do a class. I'm visiting Toronto. I'm going to come through and give a halaqah without him being asked. And then there are others who must be asked. They don't give anything until the student humbles him or herself and says, yeah, Sheikh, so on and so forth, can we get something? Everybody clear on this? And he says, and then there are some of them who don't give even if they're being asked. No. Yeah, Sheikh, indi su'al. I say, okay, tayyib. I have a question. And just because you have a question doesn't mean that I have a what? Answer, or I want to give it to you. And this is something that many people, they feel entitled. They don't even ask. They says, Sheikh, I have a question. So look, right? They don't give the time to pause in which I'm going to give you my answer. Am I even willing to what? Answer your question. Everyone understand this? He says, so some teachers wouldn't even what? They wouldn't even give the narration even if they were being what? Even if they were being asked. Khayran inshallah. And it says, and some of the Salaf Salih, they wouldn't give hadith unless the person was knowledgeable, unless they were an actual real student of the art of hadith. As for some normal average type of person, they would say no. And there were reasons behind this. And from the reasons behind this is what we read in Al-Awa'iq, that Isa alayhi salatu wasalam is quoted to have said in the gospel. It says, do not cast thy pearls among swine. Do not cast thy pearls among who? Swine. Inna al-muqallid. He says, Inna wadi al-ilm inda ghayri ahlihi ka muqallid al-khanazir. He says, the one who puts knowledge in his improper place is like the one who puts a pearl necklace on a pig's neck. You understand this? The one who puts a pearl necklace around what? A pig's neck. Giving someone who's undeserving that ilm. What's similar to what Isa alayhi salam is quoted to have said, do not cast thy pearls among swine. Low-based people don't deserve certain things because they will not respect it. They will not value it. They'll misuse the knowledge. They'll misinterpret the knowledge. And in the end of the day, they end up abusing you as well. Everybody understand this? Obviously, there's a balance in this, in which there isn't no aristocracy of knowledge, in which you only give knowledge to high-born people. No, it's not about blood or genealogy, but it's about the actual scientific pedigree, the ilm. This person is a student of knowledge. We can sit, we can talk, we can discuss this. And this person, you may teach them, and they'll never ever understand it or appreciate it or value it. Or because they don't have integrity, they may learn everything from you and then cause fitna and mislead people. They may apostate. They may leave Islam. Everybody understand this? And now they have all of this dangerous knowledge about Islam, inside knowledge, and then cause chaos and havoc. And you say, I wish I never taught him anything. Then obviously you don't know what's going to happen. You can't predict the future. You don't know if someone is going to turn and flip. But everyone said there are ways of preventing some of these problems. Everybody understand this? And that is not to cast your pearls among what? Swine. Among low people. And it allows no doubt when someone is low in base and someone lacks respect and lacks integrity, there are always signs. There's always a sign. There's a joke, there's a smirk, there's a funny face, there's a background. There's something that shows you something is wrong with this seeker of knowledge from day one. but the average person chooses to ignore the sign. They ignore the sign. They ignore the sign. They're so busy with one thing. حُبُّكَ الشَّيْء يُعْمِي وَيُصِمُّ. You love something so much you become deaf and blind. Oh, the student is so nice, or the student is dressed like this, or he's come from this country or this place and so on and so forth. And you overlook the other major flaws that are there, which are telltale signs of what's going to come in the future. This person is going to betray you and forsake you. Khairan, inshallah. Moving forward. وَكَانَ غَيْرُ وَاحِدٍ مِنَ الْمُتَقَدِّمِينَ يَقْتَصِرُ عَلَى رِوَايَةِ الشَّيْءِ الْيَسِيرِ. And in some of them, they would give narrations, but only a little bit. Only a what? Just enough. That's all I'll teach you today. Nothing more. Sheikh, give us more. No. That's sufficient. Go study, review what I've given you. Everybody understand this? He says, فَإِذَا كَانَ الْمُحَدِّثُ مِمَّنْ يَتَمَنَّعُ أو ممن يتمنع بالرواية ويتعسر في التحديث فينبغي للطالب أن يلاطفه في المسألة ويرفق به ويخاطبه بالسؤدد والتفدية ويديم الدعاء له فإن ذلك سبيل إلى بلوغ أغراضه منه. This is a very interesting point the Khatib is mentioning here, and that is, if the Shaykh is difficult, he says, then try to smooth or soften him up by speaking kindly to him, being gentle with him, making dua for him, and giving him authoritative praise. Authoritative praise, like buttering him up. Ya Shaykh, ya kada, ya kada. Using his, everybody understand this? Like you do what? When you try to, what's the word I'm looking for? Not manipulate someone, but similar to that. Sweet talk, persuade, things like this. All synonyms. Everybody understand this? And what you feed someone's ego. Everybody understand this? It's like a mind trick. You feed someone's what? Suggestive manipulation. Or suggestive what? Other words and other terminologies. And what you sweet talk someone, and you actually use their harshness as a weakness against them. And oftentimes, Allahu Alam, there are many people who have bad character or rough edges on their character is because of major flaws and insecurities that they have. And oftentimes people are looking for a certain amount of attention or a certain amount of respect that they never got. And that's why they behave in such a manner, in such a way. And if you find that weak spot, that pressure point in this what? Kalas. And oftentimes that's through a title. Someone wants to be called something. They want to be given some type of honorific title. Everybody clear this or not? So he says this is the way with a very difficult sheikh. Now we got to understand something before we move forward. And that is, the scholars of hadith of the past, the muhaddithin, don't think that they were exempt from sin. And they were all perfect human beings. And they were all angels. They were malaika walking on the earth. No. Those scholars of hadith, they were human beings. They had ups and downs just like everyone else. They had good days. They had bad days. Some of them had attitude problems. Some of them were harsh and mean and cruel. And they wouldn't spread their knowledge. And there are others that had very good character, very soft, very kind. They were human what? They're human beings. Just like a school teacher. You like this teacher and this teacher, you say he's mean. They're humans. They have ups and downs just like anyone else. Everybody understand this? Let alone the fact that when there are students that misbehave, students don't have the necessary amount of respect, or students that don't have the necessary amount of diligence and hard work, in which the sheikh becomes hard-hearted. I taught these students, I gave them ijazah, I gave them all of my knowledge for all of these years, and look, they dropped out, they quit, they turned on me. So therefore, I'm not teaching anyone else anything anymore. Everybody understand this? And sometimes they need to be softened up and reminded of the past and the responsibility of spreading the knowledge that Allah has given them. Everybody clear this or not? Khairan inshallah. Moving forward. قال الشيخ الخطيب ومن الأدب إذا روى المحدث حديثا فعرض للطالب في خلاله شيء أراد السؤال عنه أن لا يسأل عنه في تلك الحال بل يصبر حتى ينهي الراوي حديثه ثم يسأل عما عرض له وليتجنب الطالب سؤال المحدث إذا كان قلبه مشغولا. He says, if the sheikh is mentioning a hadith, don't cut him off in the middle of the hadith by asking a question. Wait until he's finished. Also, avoid asking questions and a person's mind is busy or preoccupied. ولا ينبغي أن يسأله التحديث وهو قائم ولا وهو يمشي لأن لكل مقام مقالا وللحديث مواضع مخصوصة دون طرقات والأماكن الدينية. He says you should not ask the scholar for a hadith when he's standing, nor when he's walking, because there's a time and a place for everything. And hadith is noble, and it should be removed. It should be kept far from dirty places or unbefitting places or base places. And this is not absolute here. This is not absolute. Rather, there are hadith in which the Prophet ﷺ, he spoke to the Sahaba and talked to the Sahaba in different situations. On a camel, ala rahilatihi, stoning the jamarat, making tawaf, and things like this, in which you can find in Sahih of Imam al-Bukhari. So this is not absolute here. This is not absolute. Rather, it depends on the teacher. And there are many mashayikh that you walk from the door to their house to the door of the masjid, and they would answer questions, and they would give you information, and they would talk to you, and you can communicate with them. And that was the best time to speak with them. Rather, sometimes that's the best time to learn and study. We're in the supermarket, read the book. Read the book, read the manual. Everybody understand this? Oh, but I'm tired, Sheikh, but we're traveling. Bismillah. We're in the airport, we're standing, waiting, read. All of the time. Ask questions, spar, debate, what? All of the time. Everybody clear this or not? So it depends from teacher to teacher. So this kalam is not absolute. It's not what? It's not absolute. Sometimes that's the best opportunity to learn hadith from the teacher. Moving forward. كيفية السؤال وتعيين الحديث المسؤول عنه. قال أبو بكر يجب أن يذكر السائل للمحدث طرف الحديث الذي يريد أن يحدثه به. فإن كان للحديث طرق متسعة نص السائل طيب. قرأت إملاء للشيوخ. Then he talks about here what? Not or avoid overburdening the sheikh. Avoid asking him too much and going back and forth with him. We'll skip that for lack of time because we mentioned that generally. طيب ما ينبغي أن يسأل الراوي عنه من أحاديثه. طيب. Getting the best of his hadiths, the weak hadiths, the gharib hadiths, the fawaid, things like this now. And also he talks about writing down. طيب, let's move forward and summarize this. How to memorize. Listen to this very important principle. قال أبو بكر ولا يأخذ الطالب نفسه بما لا يطيقه بل يقتصر على اليسير الذي يضبطه ويحكم حفظه ويتقنه. He says, who can translate what I just read, but not word for word, but translate it in a famous English cliche? Ahsant, exactly. Don't bite off more than you can what? That's what this means. He says the student should not take more than he can bear, more than he has the power to do what? To memorize and to master, to lock it down. One hadith that you know well, you've memorized well, you can recite it perfectly well, is better than 5 or 10 hadiths in which you're half and half. I think you make a mistake, you're sloppy, you're back and forth. As one of my teachers used to tell us, he said to read one book 5 times is better than reading 5 books. To read one book 5 times is better than reading 5 books. It's better to lock down something instead of being sloppy or mediocre in the what? The other things. Everybody clear on this or not? Say jack of all trades, a master of none. So this is a very important principle pertaining to memorizing Quran, studying the Arabic language, whatever you're trying to do. Don't bite off more than you can chew. Take your time, piece by piece, step by step, and gradually, bi'idhnillahi subhanahu wa ta'ala, reach your goal and reach your destination. Everybody understand this? Do not rush. Take your time. And it's best to master it, to lock it down, to memorize it perfectly, than have it what? Sloppy. وإذا كان في حفظ بعض الطلبة إبطاء قدموا من عرفوا بسرعة الحفظ وجودته أو جودته حتى يحفظ لهم عن الراوي ثم يعيد ذلك عليهم حتى يتقنوا حفظه عنه. He says if some students are slow in their memory, they're slow, their memory is a bit weak, a bit poor, then they should put forth those who are advanced, those who are known for having stronger memory. حتى يحفظ لهم عن الراوي, for the advanced student to memorize from the sheikh, and then later on they would. Everybody understand this? It's not always this class and then that class. But sometimes, as we said, there's a fa'idah, there's a benefit in having different levels of students in one. Everybody clear on this or not? And one what? One class. He didn't say split them, separate them, do another class, do another majlis. No. He says, but maneuver. Tell the advanced one to get it from the sheikh, and then the ones that are a bit slower, they can get it from the advanced one. Everybody understand this or not? Or are we just speaking riddles here? We got this? Clear. Moving forward, he says here, وَإِنْ كَتَبُوا بَعْضَ الطَّلَبَةِ وَذَاكَرَ بِهِ الْبَاقِينَ حَتَّى يَحْفَظُوهُ جَمِيعًا لَمْ يَكُنْ بِهِ بَأْسٌ. And if some people write down notes, and then later on everyone benefits from the notes, that's good as well. وَيُسْتَحَبُّ لِمَنْ حَفِظَ عَنْ شَيْخٍ حَدِيثًا أَنْ يَعْرِضَهُ عَلَيْهِ لِيُصَحِّحَهُ لَهُ وَيَرُدَّهُ عَنْ خَطَأٍ إن كان سبق إلى حفظه إياه. وإذا لم يجد طالبا يذاكره أدام ذكر الحديث مع نفسه وكرره على قلبه. This is beautiful speech now, guys. Al-Khatib rahimahullah ta'ala, he says, anyone who writes down something or who memorizes some hadiths from a scholar, he should present it to him for him to fix it. Let me ask you guys a question. All of the lectures and the classes and the conferences you've had in Canada, how many times have you written down notes and contacted the speaker, or made a PDF from the notes and says, oh Sheikh, oh Speaker Fulan, these are the notes from the conference, can you please check them for me? Raise your hand. How many times have you ever done this? You've done this, alhamdulillah. Never. Huh? Listen carefully. Right now you're taking notes. You take down the notes, you make the recording, and then you contact me. It says, these are some notes from my class. Could you check them for me? Could you make sure that I understood you properly, I understood you correctly? When is the last time anyone has even done anything like this? That's what he's telling you to do right here. To make sure that your notes are what? Accurate. Because you may write something down, you're writing down hastily, you're rushing, and it may not be what? Accurate. Huh? What did he say? He said, Mufti said you have to get what? Life insurance. That's what the brother said, right? He said, you must get life insurance. That's what he said in the khutbah. I don't remember giving a khutbah in which I said that you what? You must have life insurance. Everybody understand this? Just because you attend or listen or write notes doesn't mean that it's what? Precise. He then says here, and if there's no one that you can study with, there's another golden principle. He says, then keep refreshing yourself, keep reviewing with your own self until it's firmly grounded in your heart. I can't find a teacher. No one to teach me Arabic. No one to teach me Hadith. No one to teach me Aqidah. There's no one here. There's no one here. There's no one here. Okay, if that's true, and you can't migrate to another city or another country, whatever the case may be, then what should you do? Teach yourself. Study yourself to the best of your ability. To the best of your what? To the best of your ability. Once more, reading one book 5 times is better than reading 5 books. Everybody understand this? This is the only book that I was taught, so I'm going to keep what? Going over it, over and over and over again until Allah sends me a teacher another time. And not just, I'm going to stop studying, I'm going to quit studying, oh, no one's here, so I'm going to work full time, I'm going to get married, I'm going to do this, I'm going to go here, I'm going to go on vacation, and I'm just not going to study anymore because there's no one here to teach me. That's an excuse of a weak person. There's no excuse why you can't study, even if it's 1 hour out the day. Even if it's 30 minutes out the day, there's time for you to what? for you to study if you truly want to study. Everybody understand this? Even if you're what? By yourself. And there's no one there to teach you, or no one there to do what? Spar with you, to make mudhakara, and what you can review with each other. Everybody clear this or not? Moving forward, he then says, rahimahullah ta'ala, وَإِذَا رَوَى الْمُحَدِّثُ حَدِيثًا طَوِيلًا لَمْ يَقُمِ الطَّالِبْ بِحِفْظِهِ وسأل المحدث أن يمليه عليه أو يعير كتابه لينقله منه ويحفظه بعد من نسخته فلا بأس بذلك. He says that there's a very long hadith and the student can't memorize the whole thing on the spot. There's nothing wrong with him asking to take the notes from the sheikh or the book from the sheikh, or for him to do what? Dictate to him the hadith. He says there's nothing, that's not disrespectful, there's nothing wrong with that. Next point. We need a new reader from the brothers now. New volunteer. Bismillah. And now he's talking about lending books. The encouragement to lend books and not to be stingy, miserly. No, these are my books. You can't use them. You can't borrow them. Don't touch them. I had to spend money. I traveled. La. He said, lend books. Give out books. Huh? Fadal. نسخه طيب, whether the sheikh is alive, whether the sheikh has died, these are narrations that I got from Sheikh such and such, and which he gave me ijazah in. It's masmu'. We read them to him, he dictated them to us, whatever the case may be. And there's another hadith learner who wants to get that ijazah or hear those hadiths or pass on those hadiths. He says then it's recommended for you to lend that book to them and not to be stingy and not to be cheap. Now this is applicable to hadith studies, this is applicable to Quran studies or any other field, but there is a condition. And that condition is if there's someone that you feel is irresponsible or someone that you feel lacks trustworthiness and they're going to lose your book or they're not going to appreciate it, they're not going to value it, then it's no longer applicable. And you don't have to give him your book or lend them your book. We all know the famous story, of the great scholar that came from India. Some people, they went to visit him and they saw they had a grand library. They said, where did you find the time and the money to have such a library like this? He says, I didn't. He says, but I what? Every person I borrowed a book and I never gave it back. I never gave it back, I never gave it back. He says, until I compiled this amazing library. So the people, they said to him, they says, you're crazy. You're insane. He says, I'm not insane. He says, the foolish people who gave me their books were insane. Everybody understand this? Those people who lent their books to me, they were the ones who what? Who lacked intelligence. Meaning the value of the book and not giving it irresponsibly. Everybody understand this? So what's important is, it's like giving a Muslim sadaqah. If there's no reason for you to say no, you give them sadaqah. It doesn't look like they're strung out on drugs, they're strung out on alcohol, it's not like they're doing some type of crime. I need some help, I need to borrow some money. Can the master help me out? There's a haqq, لِلسَّائِلِ وَالْمَحْرُومِ. There's a right that the people have to your wealth, unless there's something wrong. Or if someone asks you by Allah, أَسْأَلُكَ بِاللَّهِ, and there's no reason for you to say no, out of respect for Allah's name, you're supposed to do what? Give them. Or if someone swears by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala out of respect for Allah's name, you're supposed to what? Believe them. You're supposed to what? Believe them. Unless it's clear this person is a liar. Then that's a different story. Malish. Everybody clear this or not? So lending books, not only is an ajr, he says, it's thawab, it's reward, but it's also a means of knowledge being spread. Before we start for Salat al-Maghrib, from my personal experiences, one of the worst problems that you can suffer from is stinginess. And stinginess, don't think it just pertains to monetary means or material things. There's stinginess in ilm. There are people who find a teacher, they find a sheikh, they find a bookstore, they find something, and they don't want to tell no other students about it in Medina. You'll find them hiding and cheating and lying about it just to keep it a secret. And they're seeking ilm. What barakah can you get from it? And it's based off of bukhl. You being a miser, you being stingy and not wanting for your brother what you want, what? For yourself. So this is a very dangerous disease that creeps up. Ibn al-Jawzi's book, The Devil's Deception. The devil's deception, not upon the fusaq, not upon the sinners, the drunkards, the fornicators, but upon righteous people. And they become deluded and duped by shaitan. And they become stingy. And the asl of ilm is supposed to be based off of rahmah, and it's supposed to be based off of generosity. Iqra' wa rabbuka al-akram. Iqra' wa rabbuka al-akram. There's a secret behind that. The Prophet ﷺ, he said to the man, he says, لَعَلَّكَ تُرْزَقُ بِسَبَبِهِ. He says, you work and he studies with me? Maybe you're giving sustenance because of what? Because of your brother studying. So ilm is connected with karam. And ilm is connected with rahmah. So the moment you're being stingy, or the moment you're being harsh, your knowledge is not beneficial to you. It's not beneficial to you. So if that's manifesting in you lending someone a book, or teaching someone, or saying, go study with this sheikh, go read upon this one, then alhamdulillah. And if not, then it's something which is seriously wrong. Allah Azza wa Jalla knows best. Wa sallallahu sallam wa baraka ala abdi wa rasuli nabiyina Muhammad. Call? Sure. Pass me the stuff.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة. حي على الصلاة. حي على الفلاح. حي على الفلاح. الله أكبر، الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله. الله أكبر، الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة. حي على الفلاح. قد قامت الصلاة. قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر، الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
استووا تقاربوا. Please turn yourselves off. جزاكم الله خيرا. Still. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. وإن من شيعته لإبراهيم إذ جاء ربه بقلب سليم إذ قال لأبيه وقومه ماذا تعبدون أئفكا آلهة دون الله تريدون فما ظنكم برب العالمين فنظر نظرة في النجوم فقال إني سقيم فتولوا عنه مدبرين فراغ إلى آلهتهم فقال ألا تأكلون ما لكم لا تنطقون فراغ عليهم ضربا باليمين فأقبلوا إليه يزفون قال أتعبدون ما تنحتون والله خلقكم وما تعملون قالوا ابنوا له بنيانا فألقوه في الجحيم فأرادوا به كيدا فجعلناهم الأسفلين وقال إني ذاهب إلى ربي سيهدين رب هب لي من الصالحين فبشرناه بغلام حليم. الله سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. والشمس وضحاها والقمر إذا تلاها والنهار إذا جلاها والليل إذا يغشاها والسماء وما بناها والأرض وما طحاها ونفس وما سواها فألهمها فجورها وتقواها قد أفلح من زكاها وقد خاب من دساها كذبت ثمود بطغواها إذ انبعث أشقاها فقال لهم رسول الله ناقة الله وسقياها فكذبوه فعقروها فدمدم عليهم ربهم بذنبهم فسواها ولا يخاف عقباها. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Inshallah, just a reminder, we'll continue the second part of the lecture, inshallah. So Sheikh Mufti Muneer will be with us tonight, as well as he'll be with us tomorrow night for the Friday halaqah. Inshallah, tomorrow we'll be having our potluck. So inshallah, if you can bring something tasty, inshallah, bring that. If not, then just bring your hungry stomach and be part of the community, inshallah. So right after halaqah tomorrow night, inshallah, we'll have a potluck. So we encourage everybody to come and join us, inshallah. But right now we're going to continue with the second part of the lecture. Let's get the brothers and the sisters to come inside and sit down, inshallah.
I'm just looking how far. Yeah, I'm gonna plug it back up right now, inshallah. Yeah, I took it out. I'll put it in for you right now, inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
All right.
Yeah. Asfaleen, huh? That's a deep ayah, man. That's deep, wallahi. Balagha. Bismillah. Jazakallah khairan. Allahumma musta'an. طيب. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, salatu wassalam ala rasulillahi amma ba'd. Like we previously mentioned before our intermission for Salat al-Maghrib, how there's always a flip side to everything, as we say. There's always a reversal of the wisdom or reversal of the ruling. Being stingy with books, not lending books, not allowing people to use your books and borrow your books, sometimes that's justifiable. And that is when people are irresponsible, people lack trustworthiness, people are treacherous. For that reason, the author, he says, قال لنا أبو بكر ولأجل حبس الكتب امتنع غير واحد من إعارتها. He says, because they are book thieves, book sharks. He says, many of the Salaf refuse to lend books. They refuse to hand out their notes because there were people who made habsul kutub, literally meaning they would lock up the books, they would imprison them. They would prevent the people from getting their stuff back. I lend you my book. 2 months later, I said, listen, you got my Tamheed, Ibn Abdul Barr, volume 26? He said, La, Sheikh. I said, you sure? He said, no, I did not lend it to you. No, he never lent it to me. No, I did lend it to you. Nah, you tripping. Akhi, what you talking about? You didn't. Akhi, give me my book. Astaghfirullah, Akhi, I don't have your book. What are you talking about? Huh? And I know deep down inside, he took my book. He's missing volume 26 of his Tamheed. You can't be in naqs. Everybody understand this? So that I got burnt once. Tayyib, labas. Then another brother came and And he bought from me a risala, a paperback book. And the same thing happened. Then a third, then a fourth. So eventually I say what? A nice, innocent brother, Khalid, comes along. He says, I need to borrow a book. I have a book report to do of a project. Can I see it? I say, Kalla wa alf? Kalla. No way, no way, no what? No way. Because people steal books. People don't return books. They give you back the book. The book is ripped apart. It has Crayola scribbling all over it. It's tomato soup on the front page, chicken noodle soup in the middle, and in the back of the book is some type of sauce. He's like, what did you do to my book? It's ripped up, stained up, it's all messed up. He said, come on, it's just a couple stains. What are you talking about? Everybody understand this? This is a what? This is a reality. When you're studying, you're overseas, you live upon something, this is real, and this happens all of the time. So if that's the case, then he says, this is why some of the people of the past wouldn't what? Give out their books. Or another idea, he says, وَاسْتَحْسَنَ آخَرُونَ أَخْذَ الرُّهُونِ عَلَيْهَا مِنَ الْأَسْتِقَاءِ انتبه لهذه الكلمة. الأستقاء. He says some of them would force you to leave what? Some type of collateral, some type of down payment from friends. You want to borrow my book? All right, no problem. Give me your phone. Everybody understand this? Give me some money. Put $20 down. When I get my book back, you'll what? Get your $20, a security deposit, like at the hotel. You have to use your card or whatever money you have in case there's any damage. You leave the hotel room, there's no damage, tafaddal, it's your money back. But we have to protect ourselves because people break things, they destroy things, people steal things. So the same applies to books. Look at the fiqh here, in which you don't have to be stingy. You don't have to be stingy. You can avoid bukhl, but at the same time, you protect your property. Everybody understand this? So it's no need to just be stingy. Everybody understand this or not? What's the chances of someone paying the collateral, putting down a down payment or a security payment, so on and so forth, and then taking your book, stealing your book, or destroying their book? Because people value and respect money, unfortunately. They respect money. And that's why some of the best classes that are given are the classes in which the people have to pay. There's a fee. This conference or this workshop is $20 a head. You have to pay. Because oftentimes people, they don't respect it unless it's pertaining to the what? The mighty, the greenback, unfortunately, lil asaf. As we all know, we don't have to say, no lines of poetry regarding that, cream, Everybody understand this? So the point is that it's a sad reality and it's an unfortunate reality, but many people, they won't respect someone unless it's money involved. If you give them free classes, they'll disrespect you, they'll talk down to you, they'll come one day, they won't come another day, but they're paying their hard-earned money. Watch how they come, watch how consistent they are. And they're going to try to suck you dry of every single faida because they feel entitled because I did what? I paid. But it's a free class, they won't pay attention. They won't listen, they won't write, they won't participate. Yeah, Sheikh, I can't make it. My cat, I had to take it to the vet. My cat got sick. But inshallah, I'll be there for the next class, because it's free. But when they're paying their money for it, they take it what? They take it seriously. This is unfortunate, but this is a reality of many of us today in the modern age. Khairan, inshallah. Moving forward. He says here, الثالث عشر تدوين الحديث في الكتب وما يتعلق بذلك من أنواع الأدب. قال أبو بكر: لا ينبغي أن يكتب الطالب خطا دقيقا إلا في حال العذر، مثل أن يكون فقيرا لا يجد من الكاغد سعة، أو يكون مسافرا فيدقق خطه ليخف حمل كتابه. وأكثر الرحالين يجتمع في هذه الصفتان اللتان يقوم بهما له العذر في تدقيق الخط. He says here, with regards to writing the hadiths, now actually taking hadith notes. Taking hadith notes. Writing down the majlis, writing down the hadith that you're hearing. What do you do now? He says things that you should avoid. First and foremost, you shouldn't write with very fine or very thin script. Your writing shouldn't be too thick and too bold, but it shouldn't be too thin. and which is small and tiny, and which you can barely read it. He says, unless you have an excuse, unless you have a what? An excuse. And that excuse is for a person to have a little bit of space left, or for a person to be a traveler. A person who wishes to write very small to use less paper, so it's less what? Less weight. Back in the day, the people, they didn't have things like we had today. You had to carry scrolls with you. It was a lot of weight. It was a lot of exhaustion. You had to tire yourself out to travel and seek hadith. It wasn't just you just have a thin piece of what? A sheet of paper. It wasn't like this. Everybody clear on this or not? So they would write smaller to fit more information on one scroll, one page. Everybody understand this? Or a person is poor. Are we listening? Do we understand this? I don't have enough money to buy paper. Who can say this today? You don't have enough money to buy paper. How many notebooks you throw away? You rip up, you destroy. So this goes to show you how different the dunya is today. Everybody understand this? In which a person doesn't have enough money to get more ink. My pencil, I only have one pencil left. I only have one quill. Everybody understand this? This is how many of the Salaf Salih lived. And many of Ahl al-Hadith what? This is how they lived. So they had to write small, but they write in a fine way to preserve the little that they what? That they had. Khairan inshallah. Moving forward. He then says, ينبغي أن يبتدأ بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم في كل كتاب من كتب العلم. فإن كان الكتاب ديوان شعر فقد اختلف فيه. وممن ذهب إلى رسم تسميته في أول كتاب الشعر سعيد بن جبير وتابعوا على ذلك أكثر المتأخرين وهو الذي نختاره ونستحبه. He says here, any book that you write, meaning your notebook, any book of notes, hadith or anything, it should be, you want you to start off with Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. As far as if it's a book of poetry, a book of rhymes, a book of what? If it's a book of poetry, he says, and the scholars, they differ on it. And some of them say you should not say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim in front of poetry. And others, they say that you should say it in front of poetry as long as the poetry is positive. As long as the poetry is what? Positive, and it isn't negative. Poetry is talking about wine, it's talking about zina, it's talking about these types of things. But as long as it's shi'r, that's tayyib, that's hasan, good, fine poetry that doesn't have a foul meaning, then there's nothing wrong with you starting off with what? Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Khairan inshallah. Moving forward, summarizing it, and this is going to be a bit different. We're not going to finish this whole book like we finished Awaq. It's not enough time. Inshallah ta'ala, hopefully if Allah brings us back again, we will continue from this. But it's not going to be time to finish the whole entire book just in 2 sittings like we did Awaq al-Talab. Tayyib, moving forward. Another very important etiquette he says here. أخبرني عبد العزيز بن علي قال لنا أبو عبد الله بن بطة وفي الكتاب من يكتب عبد الله فيكتب عبد في آخر السطر ويكتب الله ابن فلان في أول السطر الآخر أو عبد في سطر والرحمن في سطر ويكتب بعده ابن وهذا كله غلط قبيح فيجب على الكاتب أن يتوقاه ويتأمله ويتحفظ منه. Now he talks about when you have a name like Abdullah or Abdul Rahman and you run out of space, the margin, can you write Abd and then on the beginning of the next line you write Allah, or Abd and then write Rahman? Or even worse is what he says, what? It's for a person to say what? Abd, skip or go to the next line and then say Allah ibn Ahmed. Waliyadu billah. His name is what? Abdullah ibn Ahmed. Abdullah the son of Ahmed. But the way he wrote it, one line it says Abd, and then the next line says Allah the son of Ahmed. So this is an etiquette, something that should be what? Avoided. And the best thing is to do is to skip space and go and start fresh, Abdullah ibn Ahmed or Abdurrahman. Or even if it doesn't have a bad and negative meaning, the scholars, they say that it should be what? That it should be what? That you shouldn't split between the mudaf and mudaf ilayh. Unless that it's fi satr wahid. This is an etiquette that only someone is going to benefit from who's being busy with ilm and actually writing and authoring. Someone who's just, here and there, coming for the faida, he's not going to really understand and appreciate this 100%. Everybody clear on this? Khairan, inshallah. Moving forward. He says this is an awful mistake for someone to do this. He says, and people who write, they have to avoid it. طيب. The same applies to Qala Rasulullah as well. طيب, moving forward. He says, وإذا كتب الطالب المسموع فينبغي أن يكتب فوق سطر التسمية أسماء من سمع معه وتاريخ وقت السماع وإن أحب كتب ذلك في حاشية أول ورقة من الكتاب فكلا هكذا نعم فكلا قد فعله شيوخنا نعم. أو إن كان سماعه الكتاب في مجالس عدة كاتب عند انتهاء السماع في كل مجلس علامة البلاغ ويكتب في الذي يليه التسميع والتاريخ كما يكتب في أول الكتاب. فعلى هذا شاهدت أصول الجماعة من شيوخنا مرسومة إلى آخره. Another very important etiquette with regards to recording hadiths and putting them down in your notebook is that when the class is over, write down everyone who was in the class. Everyone who was what? In the class. We had this majlis of hadith. We learned this hadith from the sheikh. This is the sheikh's name. These are all of the participants. And this was the date. And if you wanted to, you could seal it. You could stamp it. And it doesn't just have to be a class on hadith. It could be any class. Everybody understand this? We attended this class. We finished this book on this date. These were the people that were here. Because that's going to be history in the future. That's going to be something that may end up in a museum. There may be something that you may sit back and ponder and reflect on. Wow, subhanAllah, 20 years ago, 40 years ago, 60 years ago when I was young, when my hair was black, it wasn't white. I was in that class. I remember that. This person died. He became this great scholar or whatever. I was there. Khalid, You may say, I remember that book. And Abu Huraira outside of the hotel reading it. Everybody clear on this? Khairan, inshallah ta'ala. Moving forward. He then says here, the date, tayyib, if there's more than one class, then make a balag, This is where we reached in the book. On page 3. So the next class we come back and you start again. Tayyib, moving forward. He says here, وفي رواة العلم جماعة تشتبه أسماءهم وأنسابهم في الخط وتختلف في اللفظ مثل بشر وبصر وبريد 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 ويزيد وعياش وعباس وحيان وحبان وحبان وحنان وعبيدة وعبيدة. What is this called? We learned this today in Bayquniya. This is called what? Al-Muttafiq wal-Muftariq? Which one? Al-Mu'talif wal-Mukhtalif. Al-Mu'talif wal-Mukhtalif, in which the names can be written or they're written the same way. The diacritical mark, the vowel sound changes what it's going to be. Back in the day, they didn't necessarily use the nuqtas too much, let alone the vowels too much. Every now and then, certain words. So if you have a word like, it says here, Bishr and Busr, it looks exactly the what? The same. There was no printing press back in the day. Everything was written by hand. And not only was it written by hand, but knowledge of hadith was considered to be, as we said, a pedigree. It was for a specific class of people. They knew who they were speaking to and who they were writing to. It's no need for us to write, for me to write the 3 dots of the sheen, Bishr ibn al-Harith. Because this person, Bishr ibn al-Harith, to the people of hadith is what? Well known who it is. Once his name is with that, we already know who it is. So I wrote, like the unexperienced person, he comes and he says, Busr. And it's not Busr, but it's actually what? Bishr. Or we have the word Habban, or Hibban, Ibn Hibban. And they have the word Hayyan, or Hanan. Everybody clear on this? Is that a man's name and is that a woman's name? Word Hanan. It looks very similar to Hayyan, especially if the nuqta is not there. Everybody clear on this or not? So he says here, مما قد ذكرناه في كتاب التلخيص فلا يؤمن على من لم يتمهر في صنعة الحديث تصحيف هذه الأسماء وتحريفها إلا أن تنقطع وتشكل فيؤمن دخول الوهم فيها ويسلم من ذلك حاملها وراويها. He says put in the vowels, put in the dots, put in the nuqtas, and do not trust and rely on your memory today. He says don't trust your memory today. Don't rely on your memory today. He says you get old, someone who isn't experienced, someone who isn't that skilled, you begin to read it and then you'll make a mistake and you'll err. Put in the vowels, huh? The scholars, they say, shakil al-mushkil. They say what? Shakil al-mushkil. Is it bishir? Is it busr? Write it, put it down. And do not rely on your what? On your memory on certain things. Khairan, inshallah. Moving forward. He says, وَيَنْبَغِي إِذَا كُتِبَ اسْمُ النَّبِيِّ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ أَنْ يُكْتَبَ مَعَهُ الصَّلَاةُ عَلَيْهِ. Never write the Prophet's name unless you write sallallahu alayhi wa sallam or alayhi salatu wa salam. Is it permissible to write Sa'd? Qala Rasulullah, Sa'd. Can you write Sa'd as an abbreviation? Or do you have to write sallallahu alayhi wa sallam? We understand this or not? Sa'd being the what? The abbreviation, like PBUH. Is that permissible? Or do you have to write peace be upon him? Or sallallahu alayhi wa sallam? First and foremost is, what's the ruling on saying sallallahu alayhi wa sallam? Is it mandatory? It's mandatory. Each and every time? Huh? The answer, guys? It is or it isn't? It is. Tayyib. What's the dalil that it's mandatory? What do you think it was going to be? You think it was going to let you say it's mandatory without asking for the dalil? Allahu Akbar. That must be a newcomer. Jeez. Yes, naam. If you would say it's wajib, now you gotta prove it. Think about it, inshallah. Yalla. طيب ما هو الوعيد؟ تفضل. عليه الصلاة والسلام. لا أعرف شيئا، لا أعرف الوعيد الشديد. تفضل. ها, you on your own on this one. I'm not throwing you no lifesaver. You gotta come to the pier yourself, brother.
One of them was the person that the Prophet said, well, the Sahaba asked him after, what is it? And he said, Ameen, Ameen, Ameen. And he said he was making that Ameen of the Jibril's dua. Where he mentioned 3 du'as, and one of them pertained to a person who the Prophet's name is mentioned, and he doesn't send something to sleep upon him.
So what was the dua that Jibril made?
He said, like, forget the word,
he's not successful. طيب. Any other dalils? Convincing, clear, that you have to say sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. What about the Quran, akhi? That's right there, first base. Sallu alayhi fi'l amr. Huh? Sahih? طيب, خير إن شاء الله. Let's move forward. وينبغي أن يجعل بين كل حديثين دائرة تفصل بينهما. طيب. Is it permissible to write PBUH in a book or Sa'd in Arabic? Or do you have to spell it out, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam? Or let's go even deeper than that. What does that ayah mean from Surah Al-Ahzab? That you have to say sallallahu alayhi wa sallam every time the Prophet's name is mentioned, or just once in your lifetime? يصدق عليه الامتثال, huh? So based off of that, then what? That dalil la yasluh. Any other proofs and evidences that you have to say sallallahu alayhi wa sallam every time? Fadal, common sense. Bismillah. Getting the reward is a beautiful thing, but it doesn't mean that it's mandatory. We need a proof stating that you have to do it every time. Word of a difference, guys, is a what? Word of a difference, huh? Fahimna, we got this or not? Something that's virtuous. I live 15 minutes away from the masjid driving. 15 minutes driving is relatively far. 15 minutes in a car is relatively what? Relatively far. 10 minutes driving is far. Do I have to go to the masjid? No. The ulama who say that Salat al-Jama'ah is mandatory, they say in this instance, I don't have to go to the masjid because it's out of the distance of hearing the nida. But if I go and I drive 15 minutes early in the morning for Salat al-Fajr, that's a what? That's a good thing. That's a tremendous thing. That's a bountiful thing. But that doesn't mean that I what? Yelzam, that I have to do it every time. So when we say something is mandatory, you can't use the proof of something being virtuous. Everybody clear on this? طيب. Let's move forward. He says here, وَيَنْبَغِي. He says, speaking about making space and keeping things clear, he says here that each and every hadith that you write, you should make a circle between them to distinguish them. Yani precision. Taking notes professionally and not just having jumbled, crowded notes in which the notes are what? Professionally laid out. Everybody clear on this? Tayyib, moving forward. He then says here, excuse me. طيب الرابع عشر point 14. Well, that's the question that you have to answer. I'm not here to answer what? Every question. Some questions, but not all. Some questions you have to answer. Tayyib. Khairan, inshallah. Everyone by now, they should know my teaching style, that one of our favorite things to do is to do what? Tashwish, not trap. Trap, perhaps, but tashwish for sure. It's to stir up confusion. That's my job. My job is to stir up confusion. It's to get you to think. My job is to get you to look down upon what you previously think that you've learned and reevaluate it. Double check it. Everybody clear on this? Everybody understand this or not? If you came here to just listen to a nice, wonderful lecture, I think you're in the wrong place. Or at least for today. A lecture will be tomorrow night after Salat al-Maghrib. And even then, it's like a daras. Everybody understand this? I want you to think. I want you to actually scratch your head. I want you to what? Try and exert yourself. Bidnillah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Khalid, I want you to just pick up my suitcase, take it. No, I want you to benefit. خيرا إن شاء الله. طيب. الرابع عشر. القراءة على المحدث وأدبها وما يختار من الأمور المتعلقة بها. إذا قرأ المحدث بنفسه كان أفضل وثوابه في ذلك أكمل. وإن عجز عن القراءة فأمر بها غيره جاز لأن القراءة عليه بمنزلة قراءته بنفسه. واستحب لمن حضر السماع أن يقرأ أن تكون له نسخة ويستصحبها معه. وينبغي أن يتخير القراءة أفصح الحاضرين لسانا وأوضحهم بيانا وأحسنهم عبارة وأجودهم أداء. He says here, reading to the hadith scholar, reading upon the muhaddith. Khalid? Reading to him. You read my, and I said later on, قَدْ أَجَزْتُكَ بِهِ. مثلا. Everybody understand this? He says here, it's best for the muhaddith to read himself. Meaning these are my hadiths. I'm reading them now to what? You. So what do you do when you take the hadiths from me? What are you going to say? You're going to say, regardless of the specifics, you're going to say, Haddathana. He related to us. Nahnu, us. Everybody understand this? I'm reading my own notes myself. What about if you were reading my notes to me? وهكذا. Everybody understand how these things work? وهكذا. Exactly. طيب. Moving forward, he says if the sheikh can read himself, then that's the best thing because it is more reward for him to read himself. For me to read myself is more reward than having a reader. He also says, and if he can't read, then he should pick someone else. And if someone else reads, then it's like he's actually reading himself. With the condition, he says, it's recommended for the one who wishes to read to have the note, the copy, and to have it with him. And for the best reader to read, the one who has the clearest tongue, the strongest nahu, the best pronunciation, the loudest voice, the most confident reader, and not someone who's going to read poorly. Everybody understands when you can barely hear the person, lazy, nahu mistakes, khata. No, someone who's a good reader. Khairan inshallah. Moving forward. وينبغي أن يكون القارئ ممن قد أنس بالحديث واشتغل به بعد الشغل إن لم يكن الكل. He says, and the reader should be someone who's familiar with the science. It shouldn't be just someone who knows Arabic who can read, but it should be someone who's familiar with the terminology and the style of the book and of the science of hadith. Everybody understand this? Even if he's not a total expert, but what? Not a total rookie. Then he mentions stories of people who made different mistakes. They made tasheef, they made tahrif, they mispronounced words, mispronounced names, etc. Also to think and to ponder. This is very beneficial and practical advice on perfecting your reading, which we have been saying for some years now is one of the most important skills that the student of knowledge is to possess. One of the most important skills is to read properly. If you can read properly, you can go very far. If you can't read properly, even if you've got a strong memory, you can't go but so far. We've been saying this for some time now, huh? And that's why we get into the car, we go somewhere, we always do what? Iqra. And not just me explain or me give a masala. No. Open it up and what? Read Tarh Tathrib, huh? طيب. وهكذا, huh? The older print, naam? وهكذا. And what you get strong. If you can read in a car, if you can read and the print is old, if you can read from this book and read from that book, then when it's in a perfect lighted situation, you're going to do what? Fly right through it, huh? خير إن شاء الله. He says, ينبغي لقارئ الحديث أن يتفكر فيما يقرأه حتى يسلم من تصحيفه ومتى لم يكن حافظا لكتاب الله تعالى لم يؤمن عليه التصحيف في القرآن أيضا وهو من أقبح الأشياء وقد حكي عن جماعة من المحدثين ذلك ولم يحكى عن أحد من المحدثين من التصحيف في القرآن أكثر مما حكي عن عثمان بن أبي شيبة. طيب, he says here, he says, rahimahullah ta'ala, is that whenever you're reading something, you should think about it well. You should ponder, you should reflect, that way you don't mispronounce. Now, I have some commentary on this. Sometimes you should think about what you're reading, and sometimes you shouldn't think about it at all. And the moment you think about it, you make more mistakes and you make more errors because you're focusing too much or you're trying to be too perfect. You haven't become free from yourself. Remove yourself from it. Just read what's in front of you and stop thinking about or stop thinking egotistically. I don't want to sound bad. I don't want to be embarrassed. I don't want to make a mistake. That oftentimes prevents you from reading smoothly, as we always say. That's first and foremost. Secondly is, oftentimes you become nervous when you think too much. So I know it may sound like it doesn't make sense, but in my head, in my mind, and from my experiences, it makes perfect and total sense. Concentrate without concentrating. Think about it, but at the same time, what? Don't think about it. In other words, don't think about it too much. And don't think about being perfect. Just try to be accurate. Don't think, just read. Lose the nervousness. Everybody understand this? Can't really explain that in words too much, huh? Wallahu a'lam. طيب, moving forward. ويستحب للقارئ أن يقرأ من أصل المحدث وأن لا يمسه إلا على طهارة. طيب, moving forward. ويبتدئ القارئ بالذكر لله ويختم الصلاة على رسول الله ويدعو القارئ للمحدث عنه أو عند فراغه من القراءة. وكنت أسمع أصحابنا يقولون في آخر القراءة رضي الله عن الشيخ وعن والديه وعن جميع المسلمين وكان يحيى بن سعيد القطان لا يعتد بدعاء أصحاب الحديث للمحدث ويراه صادرا عن غير نية صحيحة. He says that when you read the Asl al-Muhaddith, his original notes, you shouldn't do it unless you have tahara, wudu. And a person should begin with the dhikr of Allah and end with sending the prayers upon the Messenger of Allah alayhi salatu wasalam. And he says that he should make dua for the muhaddith when you finish reading. He says many of our teachers and the people who came before us, they would say, may Allah be pleased with the Shaykh and his parents and all of the Muslims. So much so that one of the greatest scholars of hadith, the teacher of Imam Ahmad rahimahullah, Yahya ibn Sa'id al-Qattan, he would say that the dua of the people of hadith is worthless. It means nothing. They're just making dua just for the what? Just for the Shaykh, but it's not actually sincerely done. Like we just said once again, the scholars of hadith were what? They were humans. They had personality, they had ups, they had downs. Everybody understand this or not? They weren't just robots. They're people who had views, they had opinions and taste, etc. Tight. Moving forward. And before we stop, do we have? Are there any questions tonight? Are there any questions? If there are no questions, then we'll go to the adhan. If not, then we'll stop and make time for questions. Are there any questions? If not, khairan inshallah. Tayyib. Moving forward. He says here, وإن كان المحدث هو الذي يقرأ على أصحابه دعا لنفسه وللحاضرين بالرحمة ويجوز أن يبدأ بنفسه في الدعاء وإذا اختلفت أغراض الطلبة في السماع وأراد بعضهم من قراءة لما لا يستفيده غيره فعلى المحدث أن يقدم السابق منهم إلى المجلس ويجب على الطالب أن لا يقرأ حتى يأذن له المحدث فإن عاجلته حاجة خشية فواتها بتأخيرها سأل من سبقه أن يهب له سبقه ويسامحه في القراءة قبله ويستحب للسابق أن يقدم على نفسه من كان غريبا لتأكد حرمته ووجوب ذمته. Mentioning some more etiquettes of the majlis, of the circle, he says that if the shaykh is reading himself to his students, then he should make dua for himself and for everyone who's present, that Allah give them all mercy. And that it's permissible for him to make dua for himself before the rest of the people. It's permissible for him to make dua for himself before what? Before the rest of the attendants. He then says here, as far as if someone comes late, someone comes early, he says then first come, first serve. Naam? Or some people, they wish to read, others just want to listen, etc. If someone comes later but they're in a rush, they have to go, they have an emergency, they have something they have to look after, there's nothing wrong with asking them to take their place. Can I go before you? I know you came before me. Can I read first? He says that's fine. That's permissible. Everybody clear on this? He then says here, and if there's a stranger, someone who's from out of town, he says then perhaps they should put him first. Let him read to the shaykh first. Or let him ask his question first because he's from what? Out of town. We're here with the shaykh every day, every night. Everybody understand this? خيرا إن شاء الله. Moving forward. وإذا أذن له المحدث في قراءة أحاديث عينها له فينبغي أن لا يتعداها طلبا للزيادة عليها. طيب, let's move forward. Now let's get to the next section. He says ذكر أخلاق الراوي وآدابه وما ينبغي له استعماله مع أتباعه وأصحابه. Now he talks about friendship, camaraderie, being a pal or buddy, a contemporary, a classmate, how to behave with your classmates, with your fellow disciples. So we have the etiquette with you and the sheikh. How do you speak to him? Do you call him by his first name? How do you call out to him? Do you read? Do you start? Now, what are the proper do's and don'ts with regards to what? The people that are in the class with you. Everybody understand this? The people that are what? In the class what? With you. Khairan inshallah. He says, أخلاق الراوي وآدابه وما ينبغي الاستعمال مع أتباعه وأصحابه. طيب. Or معلش. Before we even go that far, معلش. No, that's not even accurate. Right now we're talking about what? The sheikh treating his students, his ashab, and not a classmate. Everybody clear on this? ينبغي لمن عزم على التحديث أن يقدم له النية ويبتغي فيه الحسبة. وإن كان في بلده أو بغيره من هو أعلى إسنادا منه دل عليه وأرشد الطلبة إليه. He says first and foremost is proper intention. Why are you teaching the people? Why do you have a majlis? To show off, to be seen, to be known, to get material gain, power and status, or for the actual reward, the spiritual benefit. Also, if there's someone in your country who has a shorter chain, meaning the student should go to him, or he has more knowledge than you, then you should point them in the direction of what? Of him. Everybody understand this? And obviously that's relative as well, especially if you live in a city in which is 50 masjids, in which one masjid is 30 minutes or 40 minutes away. Everyone can't make it to the what? Another masjid. Or you may be teaching something which this person isn't what? Teaching, or there may be a language barrier, or whatever the case may be. Everybody clear this or not? Khairan inshallah. He then says, ذكر أو ثم ذكر ما قيل في طلب الرياسة قبل وقتها وذم المثابر عليها وهو غير مستحقها. And then he mentioned the chapter about seeking leadership before the proper time. Excuse me. And people being persistent and stubbornly obstinate, seeking leadership and authority, and they don't deserve it. So this is a very interesting chapter heading now. He's saying that there is a proper time or a proper way of seeking leadership. I want to be the leader. I want to be the head of this class. I want to be the main teacher. But it's the improper what? Time. يريد أن يطير ولما يريش. He says he wants to fly, but it doesn't have long enough what? Feathers. Not wings, but what? Feathers. You ever see a goose? Canada's famous for its geese, right? Canadian goose. You ever see a young goose? Young geese don't look nothing like the what? The older geese. The colors are different, the feathers are different, everything's different. The texture of the feathers is like night and day. Everybody understand this or not? So this person wants to soar and travel and migrate, but the feathers are still what? Bushy. It's not long enough. It's not time. Inshallah, the time will come in which you have your own majlis. The time will come in which you have your own class. Just be patient, seek ilm, soak up knowledge, learn, get the experience, get the tutelage, pay attention. And then when the time comes, don't worry, you'll have your what? You have your shine, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. طيب, khair inshallah. Naam. Even so. Even it is, even to this day. Yeah, There are people who had shorter chains in the 5th century. Naam. Well, see, you gotta, first and foremost is that there were many books of hadith which were totally unauthentic, unknown, but they still were compiled, they still were collected. Outside of Kutub Sitta, they're outside of Musnad Imam Ahmad, outside of Musnad Darimi, and they still made riwayah of those hadiths in the 6th, 7th, and 8th century, many of them. Hatta walau. The actual tangible benefit is not like the Dawaween, قد دونت. Most of the hadith al-ahkam, authentic, hasan, mawjood. But even still, they still use them. Clear? Let alone the fact that we have to understand something here. This is like a club here. Every single thing here is not necessarily mandatory or practically useful for every single person. But for the person of hadith, in which they're in that club, that's what they do. They're a connoisseur. Every single nook and cranny matters. Every single what? But someone who's outside says, what's the purpose? There's no need for Khatib's isnad. There's no need for Ibn al-Jawzi's isnad or Ibn Abdul Barr's isnad. But there are hadiths which are only found in some of their books. Wallahu alam. Tayyib. Moving forward. Now, in the concept of seeking leadership, that's a long discussion in itself. And what does the Prophet ﷺ Sunnah teach us about seeking leadership? Someone accepting leadership, stepping up, that's one thing, but seeking it and desiring it, that's a whole different story in itself, and it's very dangerous. And this is one of the most rapid destruction or rapid means of destruction for a student of knowledge. When you start looking for what? Leadership, and you start looking for popularity. If the popularity happens and it comes and it's stuck to you, you can't avoid it, it's nothing you can do. And perhaps with an ta'ala tilka, that's from the ajil and bushra al-mu'min, yani. فَيُضَعَ لَهُ الْقَبُولِ, the hadith says. Al-Qabul fil ard, yani people accept you. Huh? Al-Muhim is seeking leadership, seeking fame, seeking popularity, seeking influence, seeking these things, that's problematic. If it comes, if it's default, if it's a part of the lifestyle, if Allah gave it to you and raised you, وَرَفَعْنَا لَكَ ذِكْرَكَ, then that's a different story. Everybody clear on this or not? خيرا إن شاء الله تعالى. Moving forward. مبلغ السن الذي يستحسن التحديث معه لا ينبغي أن يتصدى صاحب الحديث للرواية إلا بعد دخوله في السن، وأما في الحداثة فذلك غير مستحسن، فإن احتيج إليه في رواية الحديث قبل أن تعلو سنه فيجب عليه أن يحدث ولا يمتنع، لأن النشر العلم أن الحاجة إليه لازم. انتبه الآن، انتبه. الغلط شرحناه في العوائق، يقولون الأخذ عن الأصاغر وكذا وكذا، انتبه من الغلط الآن. قال لأن نشر العلم إيش؟ هذا يقدم على قول أحمد أو ثوري أو فلان، وإذا أخذ الله ميثاق الذين إيش؟ ولا تكتمونه. هذا النص يعني. طيب، والممتنئ من ذلك عاص إيش؟ أثم. انتبه الآن. طيب, he says here about the proper age of giving hadiths and holding a hadith majlis, the proper age. He said it's improper here for a person to be premature and a person to rush before the proper age. As far as if he's needed or she's needed, then it's mandatory for him to give tahdith, because spreading knowledge when there's a need for it is what? Mandatory. And the one who refuses to spread knowledge when there's a need for it has done what? He's a sinner. He's a what? So, we don't want to put water under the bridge already. We explained that in our taking one athar and abandoning 10 athar. Taking one athar and abandoning 3 ayat. Taking one statement of this imam and abandoning the Quran. The nusus of the kitab and the sunnah say something, and you bring me the statement of this one and what? And of that one. Let alone the fact that every effort of this one who refused to give a fatwa, or refused to give tahdith, or refused to lead, or refused, I can bring you an athar of the one who what? Who did the opposite. Rather of the same tabi, the same sahabi. He refused to speak, and then there's another hadith in which he's actually narrating hadith. So that can't be the proper absolute understanding. Everybody clear on this or not? There's a time and there's a place. Certain times you should not speak. You should refrain. No question. Certain times you should speak. Certain times you have to refrain. And there's certain times in which you what? You have to speak. You have to deliver the message. Khayran inshallah. Moving forward. He says here, السادس عشر كراهة التحديث لمن لا يبتغيه وأن من ضياعه بذله لغير أهله. He says it's disliked to give hadith to those who don't want them, and wasting knowledge of hadith by spreading it among those who are unbefitting, unworthy, undeserving. Like we previously explained about the statement of who? Isa alayhi salatu wasalam, quoting the gospel. He says, don't cast your pearls what? Among swine. Khayran inshallah ta'ala. Moving forward. He says, حق الفائدة أن لا تساق إلا إلى مبتغيها ولا تعرض إلا على الراغب فيها. فإذا رأى المحدث بعض الفتور من المستمع فليسكت، فإن بعض الأدباء قال نشاط القائل على قدر فهم المستمع. انتبه, that's a qaida right there. That's a smooth one, You can move your head with that one, نشاط القارئ على إيش؟ طيب. He says that the حق الفائدة, the worth of the faida, the due worth of the faida, the haqq of the faida is not to be given to those who don't want them. If the person doesn't want the faida, don't force it upon them. Don't hurl it to them. Don't force feed anyone. Either want the food that I have to offer or not. If you don't want it, that's fine. I'm not going to force you to eat it. Everybody understand this? That is going to be harmful, and a person is not going to appreciate the meal that you give them if you force them to eat it. How do you like it? Is it good? Would you want some more? Take some more, take some more, take some more. Everybody understand this? No. The person, he finds it delicious, please give me some more. Then you take pride in offering them more of the food that you cook for them. Everybody understand this or not? Metaphorically speaking. It's very important now. He says here, and whenever the muhaddith sees that the people are tired or exhausted or worn out, then he should do what? Stop talking. And that's because of the famous proverb, what? It says, Nashat al-Qari, the energy of the speaker is only based off of the understanding of the listener. So with that being said, maybe we should stop our majlis tonight. I think it's been a little long. Maybe a little worn out tonight, guys? Huh?
That's a good segue.
Huh? نواصل ولا كيف؟ طيب بإذن الله. Moving forward. وذكر أخبارا في كراهة التحديث لمن عارضه الكسل والفتور ومن كان لا يحدث أهل البدع وترك التحديث لمن عارض الرواية بالتكذيب ومن كان لا يحدث أصحاب الرأي ومن كان لا يحدث السلاطين ليس فقط أهل البدع ومن كره التحديث على سبيل المباهاة ومن كان يمتنع أن يحدث من لا نية صحيحة له في الحديث. طيب. He mentions several chapter headings and they're all summarized. He doesn't mention the athar in there. It could be a weak hadith and then chapter heading or a lot of athar. So he just mentions the unwan and the muntaqa. Those, when they become tired or exhausted, they stop teaching or they won't teach people of innovations like we explained yesterday. Or those who reject and belie the narrations, or they won't teach Ahlul Ra'i, or the leaders, the rulers, political people, people who wish to show off and boast and brag, people who don't have the proper intention, etc. Like we explained yesterday, unbefitting disciple, someone who's undeserving of this golden knowledge, of this what? Knowledge which is golden, which is more precious than gold. It's to be respected. And this is one of the challenges that a student of knowledge or a scholar or a da'iyah or a speaker has to face. And that is because you don't mind humbling yourself. You say, I don't mind humbling myself. They don't have to do this for me. They don't have to take care of me. But it's not about you all the time. It's not about you. You, whether you like it or not, you're now representing what? Ilm. And it is your job to uphold the worth and the value of that what? Of that ilm. So there may be a time or place in which you can't go, or a person that you shouldn't speak to, or a question that you shouldn't answer, or something that you shouldn't do, just because it's a means of the knowledge being disrespected and looked down upon, scorned. Everybody understand this or not? Khayr, inshallah, this is a very challenging thing. As we spoke on Ibn al-Qayyim's statement, حقيقة التواضع أن لا ترى لنفسك قيمة. The reality of humility and humbleness is that you see no value with yourself. How can you say that and you walk around and you've memorized the Quran al-Kareem, and you've memorized these hadith and you've studied and you've learned, and you have no worth, no value? You have so much powerful, dangerous knowledge, and yet still you're supposed to be humble and low to the ground. That's a huge challenge. That's a very, very big challenge. And deeper than that is what? Is forcing people that are disrespectful to knowledge to respect knowledge. I'm not going to give you the answer. I don't mind, me personally, but it's disrespect to the art. So I'm not going to do it. Everybody understand this? That's a challenge. Everybody clear on this or not? Khairan, inshallah. Also, when it comes to the dawah field, people that have never studied, that have never traveled, that don't have no proper qualifications, then being put on the same platform as someone who studied for many years out of his life. Forget the disrespect to him, in which the person says, I've been overseas, I was in Egypt, I was in Somalia, I was in Yemen, starving, I had no food, I caught malaria, I caught this, I caught that, reading. And this person was in Canada eating, drinking, sleeping in luxury, and he's entitled to the same amount of respect and platform as me. That's a slap in the face. Let alone that it's disrespect to the what? To the fen, the ilm. It's not right, it's unfair. Everybody understand this or not? Khairan, inshallah ta'ala. And that wouldn't be accepted in any other walk of life or profession. A certified physician would never share a platform with a homemade physician. Abadan. A boxer that went through golden gloves, amateur, professional, he would never share the podium with someone who's a what? It's a slap boxer. in the backyard. It's just not right. You just wouldn't do it. Well, how can that? You have your electronic equipment, Videos are not coming there with my iPhone and my little mic, like, oh, stay still. It's like this, right? You look at me like, yeah, Sheikh, irham nafsak, yani. Have mercy on yourself. Have some respect. You don't see this huge, gigantic thing? You don't see this? Have some ihtiram, yani. Ahl takhassus. Everybody understand this? So this is a huge dawah problem that we have in the West, in which somebody that's ill-equipped is put on the same platform as someone who's what? Properly equipped. Maybe they get even more status. That's a huge problem, But, wallahu alam, moving forward. Now, I thought we had no questions, guys.
No, I have a question. So what you're talking about is that
Exactly. Bismillah.
if someone seeks their own knowledge, you're telling me that they can't spread knowledge? Like, do you need to actually go?
Crystal clear. The question, if someone seeks knowledge, they're self-taught, right?
Yeah, but like you have teachers, but they're not teachers in, let's say, Egypt or wherever. But you have teachers.
Like, for example, in Canada.
Yeah.
Clear. If someone was trained properly, but they never traveled abroad, can they not spread knowledge? No, we never said that, and we never implied that. Rather, it's mandatory for you to spread the knowledge that you have. بَلِّغُ عَنِّي وَلَوْ آيَةً. بَلِّغُ عَنِّي وَلَوْ آيَةً. Even if it's one sentence, the Prophet ﷺ says, لِيُبَلِّغَ الشَّاهِدْ مِنْكُمُ الْغَائِبِ. بِلَا شَكٍ. But that's a difference between you making it your profession, that what you do every day, you speak professionally, and you haven't been properly trained. Whether it's in Canada or whether it is abroad. That's one scenario. You with me? But deeper than that is, if it was me personally, if I was trained in Canada how to speak, I would feel shy sitting with someone and challenging someone who's been to 3 or 4 or 5 different countries and has been trained abroad. This person has sacrificed and suffered and traveled seeking more ilm, and I was at Canada in my comfortable home. Even though I've been trained too, but not abroad. You clear on that? For, let's say, for example, culinary arts. You can learn culinary arts where? Right here, what? Canada. I've been to the school, I have the degree. Isn't the same as one who went to France, who went to Italy. I went here, I learned with the French chefs. I learned how to make this and that there. It's not the same. That's a next level of what? Of respect. Even though I'm a qualified, self-respecting chef myself. But it isn't the same as the one who went what? Huge difference now. Everybody understand this? Let alone the fact that in most cases, the person is not going to reach a certain level of mastery unless they have to travel abroad, even if it's for a week, 2 weeks, a month, or something. And hypothetically speaking, if you have people that have the same training, but one actually traveled, the one who traveled is going to have some type of edge, one way or another. Clear on that? But it doesn't mean that you can't spread knowledge. It doesn't mean that you can't send a text message or you can't give a reminder at the MSA. The khatib can't make it, he's sick. That's fine. But when a person now, he does that all of the time and he has no shyness and he's putting himself forward, then that's a huge, huge problem. Clear on that? And Allah knows best. Khairan, inshallah ta'ala. Inshallah, we're going to stop here. I believe the adhan is at 10 o'clock. Right now, inshallah ta'ala, we'll stop. Jazakumullah khairan for your time and for your attention. Hopefully in our next session, Allah knows best when that will be, from this book. We will continue reading from this book, bi'idhnillahi subhanahu wa ta'ala. As far as tomorrow night, then it's the family lecture, domestic abuse in light of Kitab and Sunnah. And on Saturday and Sunday is the second module of the history of Hadith compilation. هذا وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على عبده ورسوله نبينا وإمامنا Muhammad. May Allah forgive us all, have mercy upon our souls, and make us firm upon al-Islam until we meet Him.